Today, the beginning is not a disclaimer, but a warning. It's allergy season. Allergy season is upon me. So if I might sound a little bit congested, is that the word? Yeah, when your nose is clogged with mucus. But anyways, welcome everyone to another episode of Your Casual Conversations with me, your friend Carlz, where I take something that I say in Spanish for like an hour and then I try to put it in English, which to in this week's episode it has like a little bit of a more specific kind of meaning because it's like the short version of a long version that has happened like in recent times. Because today I'm talking about Alien Earth, the latest, but is it based? Yeah, the latest franchise-based series, high production, whatever, from the Alien franchise, right? By Hulu and FX, or maybe FX and Hulu just posted it. It has been maybe a month, maybe already, but definitely more like than 3 weeks. It might be in a month since the season one of the series ended. To this moment in time, like almost 2 weeks out from November, we have no certainty about season 2 of Alien Earth. And one of the things that had happened with the passing of the days is that I have gathered like these additional thoughts about it. So if I'm to go like or talk about it in order, you have to begin with the fact that of course I liked it. And you gotta begin with the fact that it was a really high octane like series at the beginning, right? But if you have listened to my Alien episode, when I see anything about this franchise, I use these three concepts, like these three main, you can call them like rules maybe, but these are things that I use to measure any Alien product that comes out. Basically, is the for them to contain discussions or like plot points or characters that are synthetic, that of course the xenomorph is part of it, and that the main antagonist is one sort of type of Weyland or Weyland Yutani kind of thing. What is the problem with this and Alien Earth? That when Alien Earth began, already a lot of people talk about how important it was from like a lore or like a big main alien lore point of view. Back in my Alien episode, I talked about how these three sort of maxims for like by which to measure any alien product, they sort of tell you how important the product is in the main alien timeline. Then again, the whole point of that episode, even though I was talking mainly about the first Alien, mostly, is that that episode came as an answer to me rewatching Prometheus and Alien Covenant. And basically, the exercise you make when you start thinking about the Alien timeline is that not only that it's a little bit messy, but they have make this like timeline so flimsy and so flexible as to allow them to release any sort of content without any type of repercussion. So, for example, when you think about what I like to call the Prometheus timeline, I talked about this a little bit also before. They had this idea of creating a connecting story between the Alien franchise. That being that at the beginning, right? That we had the engineers and we had the whole process that culminated with what was his name? Michael Fassbender's character, William Eric. I don't know. In the end, it was a synthetic that created the final form of the xenomorphs. Of course, we all know now that because of the lack of success of that timeline, they sort of just prefer to ignore it. So if we come back to Alien Earth took these three principles: synthetics, xenomorphs, and Wayland, and very low key just did whatever they wanted with them. It was really hard to see at some points because you sort of had this inkling that this stuff were important, because even though the alien timeline might not be as cohesive as one would like it to be, or as restrictive as any other timelines could be, it's not a minor detail. So let's check these three principles, that's a better word, against Alien Earth. So for example, if we think about synthetics, Alien Earth, that is the main big thing about Alien Earth. The new configuration of synthetics and the added layers of synthetics, since it's in the past from like what we know, the Alien Ripley saga. Did I say Alien Ripley? The Alien Ripley saga, since it's way before that storyline. We can actually assume that they were stages for them to creating synthetics. And Alien Earth proposes two stages, which are the cyborgs, humans with enhanced humans, and the main argument, or like the main plot point of Alien Earth, which are these downloaded consciousness. Even saying it sounds funny. The downloaded consciousness of previously living kids into synthetic bodies. Now, how can this not be important? As you're watching Alien Earth, you get this big red, like big first red flag. Of course, since the beginning is so strong, and in the level of action, horror, violence, everything, you sort of forget. So that's why I began this episode by talking about time and time passing and having time to digest this series. The more you come back to it, the more you go like, okay, this is a big deal. This is a big deal, and that not being part of anything on the rest of the alien things, it's sort of important, because basically that means that either they wanna do a new beginning, sort of like a retconning of a very essential element of the Alien franchise, which is synthetic beings, or synthetic. I was going to say synthetic living beings, but synthetic people. Right? Either they want to retcon that, or they knew they could do it because, in a way, and this is the start of like the introduction of one of the ideas that I worked on when I did my Spanish episode. In a way, it doesn't really matter. Keep that in mind. So then we go to Wayland. In this case, not Wayland Yutani, it's Yutani, and we have this idea of of a world dominated by corporations, which is not a new thing. Might as well be reality, right? And a parenthesis, that's one of the main arguments of Greg Rucka's comic book, The Old Guard. No, Lazarus. Sorry. So we have this new company competing with Yutani, and they seem to have the same level of power, the same level of influence, the same level of control. And again, that puts you in a position of thinking about how does that change everything that came after that, or before, or in between, which is the case of Prometheus. The whole point of Yutani being there is to have this idea of a center of power that was completely obsessed, not with domination, not with financial gain, but with this crazy idea of the perfect organism, which was the xenomorph. They would do anything to have this perfect organism. If we go back to Prometheus, that was the whole point that Wayland wanted to have, right? Why Wayland had this idea that the engineers would cure him, with their idea, with their knowledge of having the capacity of creating the perfect organism, it would heal him. So it gives you this antagonist, which is not just a corporation. This is just, it's like a company that is obsessed with a concept that goes beyond just money or power, right? But if we go back to Alien Earth, we get these new companies, we get this new sort of, I don't know, antagonist, like the, how do they call him in the series, like Peter Pan, like the young genius or whatever. It's kind of an obnoxious character, but we know why he's there. And okay, you go back to Alien Earth and you wonder, why did they introduce this element? Why, and why it's not reflected in anything else? How is it possible? Maybe it could be that Yutani, Wayland, then they consume all the other companies, whatever. But we know hundreds of years after Alien Earth, the fact that they don't mention it, okay. Then as time passes, you are like, perhaps it doesn't matter. And then you go to the final element, which is the xenomorph. The xenomorph is like the most, you could say, tricky element to understand in Alien Earth, as it contrasts with the rest of the franchise. Because as we said, the xenomorph wasn't perfected until Alien Covenant. Not only that, but before it, it had never been in like a major product. I don't know. I've seen the movies and read several comics, especially the ongoing Marvel ones, which are all like these self-contained stories. But we haven't seen the xenomorph on Earth. And what is the problem of the xenomorph being on Earth at this stage of the timeline? That the xenomorph is the perfect organism. That is its whole deal. It's the perfect organism. There's no way that Earth could have lived or survived the perfect organism. That was part of the plot in Alien Covenant. Even the engineers couldn't contain the perfect organism that was the xenomorph. And it's a perfect organism that works like a virus, right? It only wants to dominate, control, and destroy. Like everything has to be that. So we go back to Alien Earth. The xenomorph is on Earth. We get, after the high octane beginning of the series, we start to settle in, and we sort of start noticing the pattern that I have been trying to introduce. That it doesn't seem to be that important. You, as a consumer of the franchise, like as someone that it's not obsessed, but as someone that has enjoyed this franchise, has like a love for it, you come with these preconceived notions, and I don't know if this is intentional or not, but you come with these preconceived notions and these expectations, and suddenly Alien Earth, like at the middle of it, around that part, just ignores all of this. It just ignores it and dives head on into its revealed main argument, which is you could say, the character of personhood of these creations, these synthetic. I don't even know. Okay, they are synthetic, but they don't say how synthetic they are, because even among them, like the chief guy, the guy that appeared on Star Wars, he appeared to be like a traditional synthetic. But these are new. These are synthetic body, but with human minds. So we have a lot of discussion among the characters on their personhood, as it is to be expected. And there's there's a bunch of arguments about these characters that are completely intentional. The fact that they are kids, the fact that they have no right to interact with their families. They have that they put kids on adults' bodies. Like it gets really complex. It gets really complex. Like this is no fucking around. And you have like snips and like snippets. I think that's a word, right? But you have like tiny pieces of them dealing with this main issue of having consciousness, human consciousness, in a synthetic manner. And you keep expecting that to develop into something. And here is when one of the main weaknesses of Alien Earth as a whole starts appearing. As you start reaching the end of season 1, just like that Seinfeld joke of the to be continued episode, you start realizing that the series is not gonna reach a conclusion on any of its topics. That's why I also began with the fact that we still don't know if we're gonna get season 2. And you see the contrast here, it's a big issue, because not only did I have these expectations that came from my holy trinity of Alien franchise elements, not only that, but then in the middle of the series decides to like throw a curveball and completely change its focus, and you realize it's not gonna deal with that either. And looking back after a month or so that the series has ended and being left out like in a state of uncertainty, the main question that I have as time goes by is how much has this changed my perception of the series? As I was deeply involved with it during its like regular airing, yeah, it's airing, right? I was as I was really involved with it while it was showing. The more time passes, the more I feel like this, not dislike, but this high frustration for it. Because at the same moment that it has these ruling ideas, like these arguments about personhood and artificial intelligence, or like not artificial personhood, yeah, artificial personhood is good. It has a bunch of tropes about the companies fighting, and a bunch of parasite characters. It's not like, how can you say it? It's not a casualty. It's not like a mere coincidence that all the aliens, of course, we are in spoiler territory, that all the alien life forms that the ship was carrying were parasites. Like, this is no coincidence. Why was Yutani just harboring parasites? We get a lot of a lot of fun moments with the parasites, but as probably anyone that likes Alien or like the series has already heard, it just takes you away from the xenomorph. And if we go a little bit back for a brief moment to the xenomorph again as one of the holy trinity elements of an Alien franchise product, it also has its really important moments. One of them is that they grow a xenomorph out of a lung. Like that that thing didn't went by my head. Like I was, hold on a minute. So you are telling me that the xenomorphs could have always reproduced out of just one organ? It's like, so why the hell do they kill the host? Like, if it's the perfect organism and you can make at least 2 xenomorphs, one for each lung, right? Why not doing that? Why not do that? You see. So all of these elements, they start like coming in together towards this crazy realization that these things do not matter. It's strange because you gotta think about it. Okay, we are creating this series. We are like explicitly pushing the boundaries of whatever lore is there to have, and we don't even know if we're gonna finish it. I know creators and writers, they always say like, "Oh, I had the ending planned from the beginning," but I don't know about it. I don't know if Noah Hawley and crew had like a true idea about where was this going. Now we go straight into mega spoiler territory, and we have the ending of season one. And in the ending of season one, we have a whole group of artificial personhoods. Well, the kids that are in robot bodies. Let's not complicate things. We have a whole band of kids in robot bodies claiming a sort of independence as a species. At the same time, we have rogue parasites roaming around Earth without no control and free. And turns out we have not only xenomorphs, but we have xenomorphs being controlled by these species. Like, even if I wanted to see this as just another, I don't know, blip in the big alien timeline, you cannot. You just can't. So if we go back to the previous big outing of the franchise, that being Alien Romulus, right? Alien Romulus is another self-contained story in the Alien universe that has all of these elements, these three elements. It has synthetics, it has xenomorphs, and it has Yutani. But it works because they basically use the context of the franchise to make a good horror movie. It's suspenseful, it's really good, like greatly. Well, it's shot great, it's directed great. It has great visuals, practical effects. It's just a horror movie, and the same could be said about almost all of the Alien books. I didn't want to spoil Romulus. I've been trying to cut down on spoilers, but one of the storylines told in the Alien comic books was that about a kid that created an emotional bond with a synthetic. I'm not gonna spoil it anymore, but like, there you have one of these elements being pushed to a certain limit, but not to the point where you need to acknowledge this as an impact to the whole saga. You see my point? And you might say like, hey, but why do you care so much about these things? Like, it might just, as you said, just be individual products that are lightly connected. One reason and one reason only, because it was an official image that acknowledged the position of Alien Earth in the timeline. It was them. It was them who said this is early in the timeline. And I don't know if it's the earliest, but it's definitely before Ellen Ripley, and I think it's even before Alien Covenant and such. So you get into this big argument with yourself and with the series about, do I enjoy all of this? Do I really honestly can say that I enjoy being in this state of complete helplessness as a fan, like of the story? Can I say that? Can I say that it doesn't affect me? Personally, I can't. Like, I can't. The more I think about Alien Earth, the more the alleged confirmation of season 2 is delayed, the more that I feel frustrated, even a little bit, not angry. Like, I don't get angry for this stuff. I like talking about it, but I don't get like angry or pissed about it. But it has definitely changed my perception of the series the more time it passes, because by the mechanics on how these streaming series happen, even if they say there's another season coming, even if they confirm it, if they don't confirm it's the last season, right? If they don't confirm that, it will suffer from the exact same issues of lack of certainty. No, like, what do you say when something lacks a clear conclusion or like a clear ending? Ambiguous ending. It will have the same issues. It will have the same issues. And if you think, okay, let's make an ending out of season 2, it's not hard to discard the fact that they just might erase everything they have done. It's like, why didn't we hear about these synthetics in the future in any of the other things about Alien? Of course, the logical answer is that they haven't thought about it before. It's like classic Star Wars shit, like, oh, why is this like this now? Because we haven't thought about it before. That's the obvious question. The lore question, that's a harder one to answer. Maybe they're gonna say, oh, the universe is so big, or like why nothing happened with the Xenomorphs being on Earth. And they could go like, oh, but you never did see Earth in any of the other issues, or like in any of the other products, right? So at the end of this is spoiler for Alien Resurrection, right? Alien 4. The whole deal about Alien 4 is them reaching Earth back. You can say whatever the hell you want about Alien Resurrection, but to me it was a big deal when by the end of the movie they were on Earth. The concept of Xenomorphs being on Earth was a big deal, and it was even heightened after Alien Covenant and the destruction of the engineer's planet. So, having all of this into consideration, it brings us back to that argument that I said a little while before, that apparently the big answer is that it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. They are all self-contained individual stories that share concepts, names, ideas, general ideas in an overall overarching, like, what's the name? They share ideas inside the same universe, but that's it. Names and ideas. Then you go, okay, let's do that. Let's think about Alien Earth as this individual piece of work that, I don't know, it's called Alien, it has Xenomorph, whatever. But let's think about it as an individual piece of work. What do we think about it then? And as I said, I enjoyed it. I loved it when I was watching it. But the more time passes, the more that the answer to that is, I don't hate it, but I'm beginning a little bit to dislike it, just out of the mere fact of frustration on it. Like, I'm a sucker for family dynamics, right? So anytime the brothers, like I forgot the name character, but the one that has an artificial lung and the kid, like the main kid and the main robot body, the one that's right next to me in the middle, like the big one. How the hell does she end up controlling computers? Well, I mean, and we know how she controls the xenomorph with like imitating the noises, but it's implied that these individuals have reached a higher level of not existence, but like a higher level of being in the world, meaning that they have abilities that we have not yet seen. And the fact that the latter half of the series is all about this, it's all about them, like all of it is about them. Of course, we can say there's a little bit of competition between Yutani and whatever this guy's company was. I already forgot the fuck it. Like, it's a little bit of that. It's a little bit of xenomorphs killing around there. Like, there's a little bit of the brother. There's a little bit of many things, but the main thing is them. The main thing is the fact that they are building into a new species. That is the main idea. And the final 2 episodes of the series are basically that, a big statement of them saying we are a new species. Like, you should be afraid of us. We even fucking control the xenomorphs. And that is such a big statement that immediately you go to the element that I mentioned more than once, that we don't know if we're gonna have season 2. You see, so if the main element is inconclusive in the series itself, and you are left in limbo, how can you enjoy that? How can you enjoy being left like in nothing? How can you possibly enjoy that? So even if I do the effort of alienating, haha, pun intended, all of my preconceptions about the Alien franchise, how can I enjoy an incomplete story? How can I enjoy a complete story? So in the end, looking back at Alien Earth, I start getting just frustration, just sensation of being frustrated, and like of having so many unanswered questions. Like, why does one of the android girls go crazy? Like, do they ever acknowledge that process of kids being in adult body? They do a lot. They play a lot with that, like, of, I don't know, of them trying to be pleaser, right? Yeah, like people pleaser, like of them pleasing the adults because they're kids, right? They do that. They do the process of having to grow up faster because of their circumstances. They play with it, but none of it takes enough of a center stage for us to say this was the beginning, the middle of an end of an idea that I've witnessed and I enjoyed. You only have seen the beginning and a blurry middle of anything. And now I go back, and even though I do the experiment of trying to imagine myself watching this series and have no attachment to the previous thing, now I have to say that it's impossible. That's impossible. I can't look at an Alien franchise or like an Alien product and not have these ideas about the rest, and not have the images of like more than what, 30 years. When was Alien 1? I think Alien 1 is before the 80s, right? Like 70 something, or maybe it's just around that age. So, coming a little bit to a close, it's impossible not to think about franchise products without its franchise. And in the case of Alien, it's a franchise that has, I don't want to say it this way, but I'm just going to say it. It's a franchise that doesn't really have enough love for itself. It doesn't have enough self-respect, because they did try to do something with Prometheus and Covenant. I rescue a lot about Covenant in concept, and I really like Prometheus and for the ideas it introduced. But they just ignored it. That goes to show that as a franchise, Alien has no strings attached. There's no limits on what they can do. They are there for the quick fix. And we as Alien addicts, we have to get this shot. We have to get it. And they know that. That's why they name it Alien. That's why they name it Alien. And ultimately, it's really well made. It has high production values. It has great performances, practical effects. It looks great, and it's fun. But the more you dig into it, the more you think about it, which is something that I do. It's just how my brain works. And the more time passes without them confirming confirming more about the story, the season 2, or I don't know, more details about the story itself, the more time that happens and you get the time to reflect on it, the less, to me, the less enjoyable the series has become. It has become less enjoyable. And the only way for me to go back to enjoying it would be them to have a proper roadmap. Let's say we're gonna do 3 seasons, and without not necessarily spoiling it, but we're gonna do 3 seasons, and this is how the story is gonna develop. You know? Because as I said, I can't like dissociate myself from the idea of synthetics and xenomorph and how important they are. Like hell, like as I said, you can say whatever you want about Alien Resurrection or like the first 4 aliens, but they always messed with the idea, and ideas that to me were so interesting and obsessive. Like even though the xenomorphs are the perfect organism, they keep evolving, and that was one of the scariest elements of the aliens or the xenomorphs as a character, because the parasite never stopped evolving. It will consume relentlessly. That was the scariness of it. It's just a non-stoppable organism, but not because it's just gonna like behead you or like splatter your guts all over the floor. No, because the organism itself is unstoppable. It's gonna consume, evolve, and change. That's why when they released Prometheus and there was the introduction of this idea, like, dude, this might be more important than you think. There might be, like in a way, there might be a thought about it. There might be a plan behind it of these higher enlightened creatures that are they have a master plan to, I don't know, conquer the universe, or by just mere curiosity create the perfect organism and see how it develops. Like the Machiavellian elements of that were fascinating, interesting, fascinating, and since they were relentless as creators, as was the creation, there were a bunch of horror elements. So even if then the franchise adapted itself, like Romulus and such, to just these self-contained moments in time, everything is still there. I'm not gonna spoil Romulus, but you still have the ghost of Weyland Yutani, how they perceive and control the world. You still have the synthetics, and the synthetics before this moment in time, you have this idea of them being kind of like a synthesized, that's a hard word to say, a synthesize, well, like a compressed idea of Weyland's Yutani obsession for the perfect organism. Like those ideas are amazing, and you have humans in the middle just suffering for the whole process, like you're being taken away by it. And that's horrifying, exciting. Humans in the middle of big corporations, big ideas, like big organisms in motion. That's exciting. And you can't see all of that in Alien Earth. For one big reason, because it's incomplete. It's incomplete. It's incomplete. And as long as it remains incomplete, it's gonna remain something that it's not bad, because it's funny. It's fun. But maybe what we can offer is like, okay, let's not make a judgment on whether it's good or bad. Let's just say it's inconclusive. Therefore, the final conclusion about it, it's TBH. Wait, TBD. It's TBD. So the more time it passes, the more critical I am of Alien Earth. But I still like it. I hope it ends. in its own rules, like in its own, under its own, what's that saying? Under my own rules, under my own like finishing, under my own volition. That's a good one, right? I hope it finishes under its own volition and its own creators, and whatever they offer us is, it's like how can I say, dignified, or like is sufficient to address the initial big picture, or the initial offering the series had, like the initial aspirations it had. Because for now it's just a pretender of big things, and it seems that you have executives, Disney, and like whatever the powers that be, that are like sort of saying you still are just a piece of science fiction, and I can stomp you with my thumb. Can you stomp with your thumb? I can make you go away. As an executive, I can make you go away, and I can make you remain inconclusive, remain open-ended, remain just a blip on the big galaxy of sci-fi products that are being released every year, therefore leaving all of us fans with a big but whatever. That's my time. That's my reflection on Alien Earth. I think this is the first franchise that has repeated twice already in my conversations, because I just love Alien. Even though after Alien Earth, it seems that it doesn't love me back. That's a big dramatic end for you. So, thank you everyone for listening as always. I appreciate just listening, just giving it a listen. Just somebody, if anyone gives some feedback, I don't know. I appreciate you regardless. I appreciate you more than Hulu, FX, and Disney appreciate us. So, give me some props. Until next time, be xenomorphed. I don't know. Bye.